Hi there, I'm Steve Knutson. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services. Today I thought I'd run us through the records management features of Microsoft Purview and show you how this relates back to SharePoint. So we'll start by looking at the Records Center, which is actually, if you're in Purview, you go down to here to Records Management. Now if you're not in Purview, to get to there, you would just go to the Admin Center and down to the Compliance option, which opens the screen. Scroll down and find Records Management. So in here I've got a number of different record file plans that I've already created. So I thought I'll just run through and show you how to create a new one. So we're going to start with edit the label. What I should have done was cancel out of there and said new label. So I'm going to start with a new label. And we start here by giving this label a name. So this is a friendly name that's going to be displayed in a few different places. So I'm going to call this one here demo label HR. Okay, so this is going to relate to some HR content, and I'm going to say this one here, we're going to say for used to label recruitment documents. You can also put an optional administrator option down here. We won't do that. We'll just go next. Now, the first thing we can do up here is put in a reference ID. So this could be your internal record keeping ID. So for example, it could be HR 201, or any other naming convention that you use for your references within your classification. The next thing we're going to do is choose a department. If the department's not listed, you can always add them by choosing the add option up the top here. I'm just going to choose that one and add them in. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose a category. And in my category, I'm going to scroll down until I find one called Recruitment and Hiring and choose that. And I can also, as before, create additional categories if I need to match up with my classification. So essentially, we're building a 3-level classification with the function, the category, and the subcategory. So in this case, I haven't actually got a subcategory. I can create one. We won't bother for this demo, but you could create an additional subcategory in here to list them in here if you want to. The next thing we're going to add is an authority type. So there are by default these 3 authority types. So I'm going to say this one here is a legal one. We could also make it business or regulatory, but I'm just going to say legal for this one. And then we can also optionally add a citation. So the citation is a link back to a reference page. So in this case, it could be legislation, or it could be a page in your intranet with a SharePoint page, for example, containing details of this rule, why it's being applied. Maybe it's your policy. I won't choose one of these. I in fact might just choose one at the top here just for so you can see how that shows up in here. Next thing we do is go to next. And now we're going to choose define what we're going to do with this label. So this is a retention label. So our choices are retain the item forever or for a specified period of time. Enforce an action after the period of time. So once something is finished, then what should we do with it? We can either delete it, we can relabel it, or we can make it do something else, or just label the item. So don't actually do anything with the label, just mark it with the label, and then have no actions associated. So we'll choose this top option because what we want to do is retain for a specific period of time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little trick. So if we are testing labels, we don't want to wait 7 years to find out whether we've made this work or not. We want to wait the shortest period of time we can, which in the case of retention period is 1 day. So I'm going to choose custom, remove the years, and then make this 1 day. And then we can also choose when we start the retention from. So was it the created date of the file, when the file was last modified, when the items were labeled, or you can have event-based ones around things like employee activities, expiry, or product lifetime. So in this case, I'm just going to use the created by because I'm testing. And then what we want to do then is say, what do we do at the end of the retention period? So retain the items even if the user deletes them. So this one here says, so while it's being retained, so within that period of time, we can allow delete, but if they do, it keeps the item until the end of the retention period. Mark the item as a record. So if we do that, a person can no longer update the document. It's now kept as a locked record for viewing only. Okay, so then we go next from here, and now we're going to determine what we do at the end of the period. So in this case, I'm going to use this option here, start a disposition review. So what this does is at the end of the retention period, it's going to notify the person responsible for that set of documents and ask them to review the document and decide what to do at that point. So we'll choose this option. This is common for records management. Now we're going to click down here and go create a stage and assign reviewers. So stage 1, so we're just going to say review period 1. So you can give it a name, whatever you feel like calling it. And then for that review period 1 stage, we're going to assign a user. So I'm going to assign that to myself. This is the person that will receive the notification at the end of the retention period. I'm going to click OK. Now the last thing we're going to do is, so we can also down here run workflows, change the label, run a workflow, deactivate the retention, other activities we can do, in our stage review. So we're going to next, excuse me, review my settings. You'll notice my HR reference here, my classification, my citation, and then the details of the retention period. Then I'm going to create the label. So now this label is created, the next step we're going to do is publish this to a location. So I'm going to go choose this option here, and I'm going to go publish to this location. So I'm going to go done. And then the next thing I'm going to do now is specify where. So you'll see my label name. And next, I can choose an adaptive scope based on some adaptive rules, or I can go static. I'm just going to choose static for this option because it's super easy to demo. I'm going to go to the location where that I want to choose. So I want to say specific locations. Let me choose the specific location. Turn off everything apart from my test site. Now I'm just going to grab my test site URL up here. Go back into here, paste my URL into this box, and then press enter. Select the URL, and done. And that means that this rule will only apply to that one particular site. So it's my test site and my test tenant. I'm going to go next, and then I'm going to give the policy a unique name. So I'm just going to say HR recruitment. And I'm going to go next and submit. So now I've got my label and I've published it. So everything's configured. Oh, can't have a leading trailing space. Okay, so let's just go back there and just going to go. Oh, there's a trailing space on that one, so remove the space at the end and go submit again. It's always good when something doesn't go quite right because you learn something. Here we go. So now we're publishing our label. Now the next thing that you need to know is this label will not show up immediately. So it'll show up quickly in some screens, but won't activate until a timer process runs, which runs once a week. And once that's done, then the label will be fully activated. But if we jump over into SharePoint now, have a quick look in SharePoint and go to a document library. Here's some labels I've created earlier. A couple of tricks. You can turn on, show these fields in a view. So just by scrolling to the right hand side and choosing the show hide columns, you can select these retention columns. It'll show you when the label was the label that's been applied and when it was applied. And another thing you can do is in the library settings, under more library settings, you can set a default label for a library. So we go into the apply label to item or list or library, choose this option here, and then in here we can specify our label. So by default it's blank. Pick the label that we want, and you'll see once we've done that, that I can then tick this box here, apply label to existing items in the library. If I do that within relatively short period of time, within an hour or two, you'll start seeing existing items being labelled in that library, and anything new that you load into the library will automatically receive a label on as it's uploaded or created. So that's the most of the story. The last part of the puzzle is what happens at the end of the retention period. Over here in my Outlook, because I was assigned, I receive this email here with the label description, the number of items to review, and a link. So I click the link, takes me back to the Compliance Center. And then over in the Compliance Center here, I get to see the documents that from that rule, from the disposition rule has run, lists me the documents down here. Now I haven't got the right permission assigned, I've just noticed. So when I do select these documents, I should get a preview over in here of the document. I can choose to delete the document, relabel the document, extend the retention, assign it to another person, or even download the file. So those are my actions at the end of the process. And over here I'll get a list of my disposed of items. If I've already disposed of things, I'll get a list of them here. I can export that list out, and that's pretty much end to end the process. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and learnt something. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and keep in touch for more SharePoint things. Thank you.